The Russia-Ukraine conflict has completely exposed Russia's weakness. It shattered the illusion of rebuilding a great Russia. It also brought unprecedented development opportunities to East Asia. Great power politics must consider geography. Geographically, Russia is East Asia's biggest geopolitical rival. Why is that? The reason is simple. East Asia shares a border with Russia. And in the northeast, Inner Mongolia, northwest, and even all of North China, they are under direct threat from Russia. Despite the current facade of friendliness from the Tsar, tomorrow, if Russia changes leadership, it could turn hostile. Historically, the Tsarist Russia, the Soviet Union, were they not all our demons? It should be noted that millions of square kilometers of land remain in Russian hands. The friendly face of the earth towards China does not guarantee a friendly Russia tomorrow. Russia's weakness today does not mean it will remain weak tomorrow. What is necessary is to completely cut off Russia's ability to launch attacks. The Soviet Union once instilled fear in China, but not to the same extent. What is the core difference? The key reason is the division of Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. If these four remained unified, the strategic pressure on Northeast Asia would still be significant. After the Soviet collapse, Russia lost Ukraine, which nearly cost it half of its vitality. Before the Soviet Union collapsed, the most economically valuable region was undoubtedly Ukraine. Ukraine has the densest population. It also possesses some of the most fertile land on Earth. It is one of the 3 major black soil regions in the world. Although Ukraine's area is only 3% of the Soviet Union, it produced over a third of the Soviet food supply. At times, it even accounted for 40%. Without Ukraine, the Soviet Union could sustain 300 million people. With Ukraine, Russia can only sustain 150 million. Moreover, the Soviet Union's ideal port was in the Black Sea, right in Ukraine. Thus, Russia's previous acquisition of Crimea was aimed at reintegrating Ukraine to recreate a great Russia. However, the current situation has completely shattered that dream. After the Soviet collapse, the strength of Russia's military has been a question mark, including East Asia. Most countries in the world still believe that Russia's army, especially its armored divisions, retains formidable strength. It was thought to have the potential to sweep across Europe until the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. In the early days of the conflict, optimists believed Russia could win in just 1 hour and 22 minutes. Pessimists thought Ukraine would collapse within a few weeks. The reality was that Ukraine not only held on to Kiev, but also conducted several successful counteroffensives. Russia initially aimed to finish the war in a week, but it turned into a protracted conflict lasting 3 years. Even after a year or two of conflict, Ukraine managed to organize multiple major counterattacks, even reaching into Russian territory. With the US and Europe imposing extensive sanctions on Russia, the world suddenly opened up a market of over 100 million people with moderate purchasing power and no foreign competition. Decades, even a century ago, to gain such a market often required large-scale military campaigns and prolonged wars. Forcing opponents to sign unequal treaties would achieve similar results. However, in 2022, East Asia did not spend a dime. It simply gained this enormous cake. Thus, today's Russia is like Canada to East Asia. And what is Canada? 77% of its exports go to the US, with more than half being mineral resources, primarily oil. Now, Russia's economic dependence on East Asia is increasing. Trade has surpassed $240 billion, making it a veritable resource satellite state. In these 3 years of conflict, It can be said that the world's third largest power, Russia, is personally attacking parts of the former Soviet Union. Meanwhile, the world's first power, the US, with the fourth largest, the EU and the UK, provides everything except direct military intervention. Both sides are exhausted. What about the world's second power, East Asia? It is comfortably watching the show and profiting by selling goods to both sides. Does this scene look familiar? That's right. This resembles the United States during the two world wars. Before World War I, the US was nominally the second largest power. It became the first after World War I, experiencing a significant leap. During World War II, before Pearl Harbor, it also traded with both sides. It profited off others' conflicts. Finally, it entered to reap the benefits and inherited Britain's legacy. Unlike the previous world wars, today's East Asia is even more formidable, especially in steel production, industrial output, and advanced military equipment. It is even more powerful than the US of that time. And Japan during World War II dared to attack Pearl Harbor. Now Japan can only continue to emphasize Sino-Japanese friendship. 3 years after the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the symptoms of America's decline are becoming more apparent. Russia is locked into a limited expansion. The European Union faces complete disintegration. Ukraine has been thoroughly devastated. Only East Asia has become the biggest beneficiary. Moreover, the conflict is subtly influencing power transitions. By 2025, the US will not have a sixth-generation fighter. But East Asia has made advancements. The US lacks a space station by 2025. However, East Asia does. The US lunar return plan has repeatedly failed. East Asia has successfully brought back advancements. Only 3,700 operational American aircraft carriers remain. That number is decreasing, while East Asia's fleet is increasing. The construction of Carrier 004 is about to begin. This one is likely to be nuclear-powered. East Asia is heading towards a vigorous maturity, while the US is heading towards decline. They are not in a hurry. Only the US is anxious. They feel pressured. Initially, it was thought that when the world's number one changes, there would at least be a showdown. But indeed, there has been fighting. However, it has been fought in Europe. Therefore, it is likely that in the future, NATO will also disband. Back then, Russia asked the US, since the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact are gone, shouldn't NATO disband as well? The US rejected Russia's proposal. Now, all NATO members except the US feel intense insecurity. They wonder if the US can still hold up. Zelensky can be said to be America's perfect proxy. In a place as small as Ukraine, he received aid. He has fought against Russia for 3 years. No one could have fought better than Ukraine. Zelensky has been a perfect American proxy. He has received so much US aid. He has fought hard for many years. In the end, the outcome was tragic. So, who can NATO protect now? If Ukraine cannot withstand Russia, can Poland hold out? Even more broadly, if NATO truly intervenes, can the US confront Russia directly? It should be noted that Ukraine is currently using NATO equipment. Even if the US were fully involved, it might not perform better than Ukraine. Zelensky leads Ukraine's resistance. He has shown the world that countries far from Russia are safe, while those close are threatened. NATO's failure to protect Ukraine has led to intense internal conflict in the US. The contradictions between the US and its allies are growing. The integration process between Russia and Europe has been interrupted. Russia has completely stopped gas supplies to the EU. This means a complete decoupling from Europe. Russia will rapidly become increasingly isolated. If East Asia becomes like Canada, Russia will never rise again. Finally, please like and follow the Little Tavern strategy. Share the secrets.